I exposed my mother-in-law at Christmas after years of being compared to the rich daughter-in-law. Hello everyone, I'm Ashley, and I need to share what happened at my family's Christmas dinner last month. Some of you might relate to this nightmare, and honestly, I just need to get this off my chest because the whole situation has been eating me alive. Let me start from the beginning. I've been married to my husband Adam for 8 years. We have 2 beautiful children, Melinda who's 6 and Lucas who's 4. I work as a registered nurse at St. Mary's Hospital, pulling 12-hour shifts in the emergency department. It's exhausting work, but I love helping people during their worst moments. Adam works in construction management, and together we've built what I thought was a solid, happy life. We live in a modest 3-bedroom house in suburbia, nothing fancy but it's home. We drive reliable cars, take the kids to soccer practice, and try to save a little each month for their college funds. Just your typical middle-class American family, you know? The trouble started 3 years ago when Adam's younger sister Victoria got engaged to James, a software engineer who makes excellent money. From the moment Victoria announced her engagement, something shifted in the family dynamic, though I didn't recognize it at first. Let me paint you a picture of Victoria. She's 28, absolutely gorgeous, and has this way of commanding attention whenever she walks into a room. She works part-time at a boutique clothing store, more for fun than necessity since James makes enough to support them both. Victoria has always been the baby of the family, and Mary, my mother-in-law, absolutely dotes on her. Mary used to be a school principal before retiring, and she runs the family like she's still managing students. She's organized, opinionated, and has very specific ideas about how things should be done. Robert, my father-in-law, is quieter but tends to go along with whatever Mary decides. For the first 5 years of my marriage, things were pretty good with the in-laws. Sure, Mary could be a bit controlling, and she had her moments of favoritism toward Adam over Victoria, but nothing too dramatic. We'd have Sunday dinners, celebrate holidays together, and while Mary would occasionally make little comments about my housekeeping or parenting choices, I chalked it up to typical mother-in-law stuff. Then Victoria got married. The wedding was beautiful, I'll give her that. James spared no expense. They had it at some fancy country club, with flowers flown in from California, and a 5-course dinner that probably cost more than Adam and I spent on our entire wedding. I remember standing there in my bridesmaid dress, watching Victoria float down the aisle like a princess, and feeling genuinely happy for her. What I didn't expect was how dramatically this would change my position in the family hierarchy. It started small. At the first family dinner after Victoria and James got back from their honeymoon in Tuscany, Mary couldn't stop gushing about how wonderful it was to have such a successful addition to the family. She kept talking about James's job at the tech company, his salary, their beautiful new house in the upscale part of town. "It's so nice to finally have someone in the family who can provide properly," she said, glancing meaningfully at Adam and me. "Victoria will never have to worry about money." I felt Adam tense beside me, but he didn't say anything. We both knew our financial situation wasn't terrible, but we weren't wealthy by any means. We lived paycheck to paycheck like most people, trying to balance mortgage payments, childcare costs, and student loans from my nursing degree. Over the next few months, the comments became more frequent and more pointed. Mary would compare everything we did to what Victoria and James were doing. When we showed up for Sunday dinner in our 10-year-old Honda, she'd comment on how nice it was that James had bought Victoria a brand new BMW. When I mentioned needing to pick up extra shifts at the hospital to help pay for Melinda's dance classes, she'd immediately follow with how wonderful it was that Victoria could pursue her hobbies without worrying about money. The breaking point came during Melinda's 6th birthday party. We decided to have it at our house, nothing elaborate, just family and a few friends from school. I made a homemade cake, decorated with pink frosting and princess figurines that Melinda had picked out herself. The kids were having a great time, running around the backyard playing games. Victoria and James arrived late, which wasn't unusual, but Victoria was carrying this enormous gift bag from an expensive toy store. She made a big show of presenting it to Melinda, who squealed with delight when she opened it to find the latest electronic tablet designed for kids, complete with games and educational apps. I felt my stomach drop. This tablet cost more than Adam and I had budgeted for Melinda's entire birthday, and here was Victoria upstaging us at our own daughter's party. But the worst part was Mary's reaction. "Oh, Victoria, you're so thoughtful." "Melinda, isn't your Aunt Victoria wonderful? She always knows exactly what to get." Then, looking at the modest pile of presents Adam and I had wrapped, she added, "It's so important for children to have nice things." They remember these moments. The implication was clear. We weren't providing adequately for our children, and Victoria was stepping in to fill the gap. I excused myself to the kitchen, where I spent 10 minutes gripping the counter and trying not to cry. Things escalated from there. Every family gathering became an opportunity for Mary to highlight Victoria's superior lifestyle. When we mentioned we were thinking about taking the kids to the local amusement park for a weekend trip, Mary would immediately bring up Victoria and James's upcoming vacation to Europe. When I talked about working overtime to help with Christmas presents, she'd mention how generous James was being with his Christmas bonus. The subtle digs became less subtle. Mary started making comments about my appearance, suggesting that maybe if I took better care of myself like Victoria did, I might be happier. She'd criticize my parenting choices, always with the caveat that she was just trying to help, but it was clear she thought Victoria would do things better when she had children. Adam tried to defend me, but Mary had this way of making him feel guilty for not providing better for his family. She'd bring up his childhood, how hard she and Robert had worked to give their children opportunities, and how disappointed she was that he wasn't living up to his potential like Victoria was with her choice in husband. The worst incident happened 6 months ago at Robert's birthday dinner. Mary had planned this elaborate celebration at an expensive restaurant. Victoria and James arrived in their new car, Victoria wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. I had worn my best dress, the one I'd bought for a wedding 2 years ago, and I thought I looked nice until I saw Victoria. During dinner, the conversation turned to home renovations. Victoria was excitedly describing the kitchen remodel they were planning, complete with marble countertops and professional-grade appliances. Mary was hanging on every word, asking questions and offering suggestions. "Ashley, didn't you mention wanting to update your kitchen?" Mary asked suddenly, turning to me with what looked like concern but felt like a trap. "Well, yes, eventually," I said carefully. "We're hoping to save up for some new appliances next year." Mary nodded sympathetically. "It must be so hard having to wait for everything. Victoria is so lucky that James can just take care of these things right away. It makes such a difference in a marriage when money isn't a constant worry." I felt heat rise in my cheeks. "We manage fine," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Oh, I'm sure you do your best," Mary replied, patting my hand condescendingly. "It's just that children need stability, you know? They need to know their parents can provide for them." That's when Adam finally snapped. "Mom, what are you implying?" "Nothing, dear. I'm just saying that Victoria chose well. She thought about her future, about what kind of life she wanted for her family. It's smart to marry someone who can provide security." The implication that I had somehow trapped Adam into a life of mediocrity hung in the air. Victoria looked uncomfortable for the first time, but she didn't say anything to defend me. James just kept eating, pretending not to notice the tension. I excused myself to the bathroom and called my best friend Nina, a fellow nurse who's known me since nursing school. "I can't do this anymore," I whispered into the phone. "She's making me feel like I'm not good enough for my own family." "Ashley, you're an amazing wife and mother," Nina said firmly. "You work your ass off to help support your family, you're raising 2 incredible kids, and you've been nothing but respectful to Adam's family. This is their problem, not yours." But it was hard to remember that when I walked back to the table and saw Mary showing Victoria pictures on her phone of nursery ideas, talking about how exciting it would be when Victoria started having children. The implication was clear. Victoria's children would be the favored grandchildren, just like Victoria was the favored daughter-in-law. Things came to a head last month at Christmas dinner. Mary had gone all out as usual. The house was decorated like something out of a magazine, the table set with her finest china. Victoria and James arrived with armloads of expensive presents, including a tablet for Lucas to match Melinda's and designer outfits for both kids. I had worked extra shifts for 2 months to be able to afford nice Christmas presents for everyone. I was proud of what I'd managed to buy on our budget: a lovely scarf for Mary that I'd found at a department store sale, a book about local history for Robert, and thoughtful gifts for Victoria and James. The present exchange went about as expected. Victoria's gifts were expensive and impressive. James had bought Adam some high-end tools that he'd been wanting, but couldn't justify buying for himself. Victoria gave me a gift certificate to a spa, which would have been thoughtful if she hadn't mentioned that she thought I looked stressed and tired lately. When it came time for my gifts, I watched Mary unwrap the scarf with a polite smile. "How nice," she said, setting it aside quickly. "Victoria got me this beautiful necklace from Tiffany's. Real pearls." I felt my heart sink, but I tried to keep smiling. Then came the moment that changed everything. We were sitting around after dinner, the kids playing with their new toys, when Mary started talking about New Year's resolutions. She was going on about how she wanted to travel more, maybe take a cruise with Robert. "Of course, we'll have to be careful about money," she said, sighing dramatically. "Retirement income doesn't go as far as it used to." That's when James, who had been quiet most of the evening, surprised everyone. "Actually, Victoria and I have been talking about that," he said. "We'd like to pay for you and Dad to take that cruise you've been wanting. Consider it a thank you for everything you've done for us." Mary gasped, her hand flying to her chest. "Oh, James, we couldn't possibly accept such an expensive gift." "Of course you can," Victoria chimed in. "We want to do this for you. You deserve to enjoy your retirement." The cruise they were talking about was a 2-week Mediterranean voyage that I knew cost at least $8,000. It was an incredibly generous gift, and I genuinely felt happy for Mary and Robert. They had worked hard their whole lives and deserved to enjoy themselves. But then Mary turned to Adam with this expectant look. "Isn't that wonderful, Adam? Your sister and James are sending us on a cruise. Such thoughtful children." Adam looked uncomfortable. "That's really generous of them, Mom." "Yes, it is," Mary agreed. "It's so nice to have children who are in a position to give back to their parents, to show their appreciation for everything we sacrificed for them." The dig was so obvious that even Victoria looked embarrassed. But Mary wasn't done. "Of course, I know you and Ashley have your own financial concerns," she continued, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "It must be hard, trying to keep up when you're living so differently from Victoria and James. But that's the choice you made when you decided money wasn't important. That's when I lost it." "I'm sorry, what choice?" I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "The choice to work as a nurse? The choice to help save people's lives? The choice to raise our children with the values of hard work and gratitude instead of entitlement." Mary blinked, clearly not expecting me to fight back. "Ashley, I didn't mean." "No, I think you meant exactly what you said," I interrupted, standing up. "You've made it crystal clear for the past 3 years that you think I'm not good enough for your son because I don't make as much money as James does. You've criticized my parenting, my appearance, my career, and our lifestyle at every opportunity. You've made me feel unwelcome in my own family." The room went dead silent. Adam was staring at me with wide eyes. Victoria looked mortified. James seemed to be studying his hands with intense interest. "You want to know what's really sad?" I continued, my voice shaking with emotion. "I work 12-hour shifts in an emergency room. I hold the hands of dying patients. I comfort families during the worst moments of their lives. I save lives, literally. And somehow that's worth less to you than James's salary." Mary's face was turning red. "Ashley, you're being dramatic." "Am I?" "Then explain to me why every conversation about our family turns into a comparison with Victoria and James. Explain why my children's birthday parties become opportunities for you to highlight what we can't afford. Explain why my husband goes home from family dinners feeling like he's failing as a provider because his mother thinks his wife married down." Adam finally found his voice. "Ashley's right, Mom. This has gone too far." "I've tried to be respectful," I said, my voice breaking slightly. "I've bitten my tongue for years while you've made little comments and digs. I've pretended not to notice when you roll your eyes at our gifts or our plans. I've even tried to understand that you're proud of Victoria's success. But I will not stand here and be told that my life, my career, my contribution to this family is somehow less valuable because it doesn't come with a 6-figure salary." Mary stood up, her face flushed with anger. "How dare you speak to me like that in my own home? After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me?" I shot back. "Besides make me feel like an unwelcome guest at every family gathering for the past 3 years? We welcomed you into this family. No, you tolerated me until someone better came along. And the moment Victoria married James, I became the daughter-in-law who wasn't quite good enough." Victoria finally spoke up, her voice small. "Ashley, I never meant for any of this to happen." I looked at her, this beautiful young woman who had never had to worry about money, who had never worked a job she didn't enjoy, who had married well and lived comfortably. I didn't hate her, how could I? But I was tired of being compared to her. "Victoria, you're not the problem," I said. "The problem is a family dynamic that values net worth over character. The problem is being made to feel guilty for not being wealthy while working my ass off to contribute to society in a meaningful way." I turned back to Mary. "I love Adam. I love our children. And I've tried to love his family because family is important to him. But I will not continue to subject myself or my children to this treatment. We will not be attending family gatherings anymore until this stops." Mary gasped. "You can't keep our grandchildren away from us." "I'm not keeping them away. I'm protecting them from learning that their worth is measured by their parents' bank account. I'm protecting them from growing up thinking that some people matter more than others because they have more money." Adam stood up then, moving to stand beside me. "She's right, Mom. This needs to stop." "Adam, you're going to let her speak to your mother this way?" Mary demanded. "I'm going to support my wife, who has been disrespected in our family for too long," Adam said firmly. "Ashley is an amazing woman, an incredible mother, and she works harder than anyone I know. If you can't see that, that's your loss." We gathered up our children and our coats and left. The ride home was quiet, Melinda and Lucas sensing the tension but not understanding what had happened. Adam reached over and took my hand. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I should have said something sooner." "I know," I replied, "but I needed to say it myself. The aftermath has been complicated." Mary called Adam the next day, demanding an apology from me and threatening to cut us out of the family if I didn't learn some respect. Adam told her that wouldn't be happening and that she needed to think about her own behavior. Robert, surprisingly, called a few days later. He'd been quiet during the Christmas confrontation, but apparently, he'd been thinking about what I said. "Ashley," he said, "I owe you an apology. Mary gets carried away sometimes, and I should have spoken up. You're a good woman, and we've not treated you fairly." It was the first acknowledgement I'd received from Adam's family that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the problem. Victoria reached out a week later, asking if we could talk. We met for coffee, just the two of us, and she cried through most of the conversation. "I never realized how Mom was treating you," she said. "I was so caught up in my own life, my own happiness, that I didn't see what was happening. I'm so sorry, Ashley." I believed her. Victoria isn't malicious. She's just been the golden child for so long that she didn't recognize the shadow it cast on others. "I don't blame you for being successful or for marrying well," I told her. "I blame the system that makes one person's success come at the expense of another person's dignity. We're slowly working on rebuilding our relationship. Victoria has started speaking up when Mary makes comparisons, and she's made an effort to include me in conversations that don't revolve around money or status. Mary, on the other hand, has doubled down. She's told extended family that I'm controlling and keeping her grandchildren away from her. She's painted herself as the victim in this situation, which honestly I expected. But here's what's changed. I'm not hiding anymore. When people ask what happened, I tell them the truth. I explain that I was tired of being made to feel inadequate because I chose a career in service rather than one that pays more. I talk about the importance of values beyond net worth. The response has been overwhelmingly supportive. My coworkers at the hospital, our friends, even some extended family members have shared their own stories of feeling judged for their career choices or financial situations. It turns out I wasn't alone in this experience. Dr. Valeria Wells, my supervisor at the hospital, pulled me aside last week to tell me she'd heard about the family situation through Nina. "Ashley," she said, "I want you to know that what you do here matters. Every life you've helped save, every family you've comforted, every crisis you've managed, that's worth more than any salary. Don't let anyone make you forget that." Nina has been incredible throughout this whole ordeal. She's reminded me daily of my worth, not just as a professional, but as a person. She's helped me see that standing up for myself wasn't selfish. It was necessary. "You've been teaching Melinda and Lucas an important lesson," she told me. "You've shown them that they should never accept being treated as less than, no matter who's doing the treating." Adam has been supportive, though this has been hard on him too. He loves his mother despite her flaws, and having to choose between his wife and his family of origin has been painful. But he's made the right choice, and our marriage has actually grown stronger through this crisis. "I married you because of who you are," he told me one night as we were talking through everything that had happened. "Your compassion, your strength, your dedication to helping others. If my mother can't see that, it's her loss." The kids have adjusted better than I expected. Melinda asked why we weren't going to Grandma and Grandpa's house anymore, and I explained that sometimes adults need time apart when they can't agree on how to treat each other nicely. She seemed to accept that explanation. Lucas, being younger, has been more concerned with whether he'll still get to see his cousins when Victoria has children someday. I assured him that we'll figure out a way to maintain relationships with family members who treat us with respect. It's been 2 months since that Christmas dinner, and I have mixed feelings about how things have played out. I'm proud of myself for finally standing up for my family's dignity. I'm grateful for Adam's support and for the relationships that have actually improved as a result of this crisis. But I'm also sad. I'm sad that it came to this. I'm sad that Melinda and Lucas are missing out on a relationship with their grandparents. I'm sad that Mary's need to elevate Victoria somehow required diminishing me. Most of all, I'm sad about the lost potential. We could have been a family that celebrated everyone's different contributions. Victoria's financial success, my service to the community, Adam's hard work in construction, James's technical skills. We all bring different things to the table, and that should be a strength, not a source of competition. Instead, we became a family divided by arbitrary measures of worth. And while I don't regret standing up for myself, I do regret that it was necessary. The story doesn't have a neat ending because real life rarely does. Mary continues to maintain that she's the wronged party. She's reached out to Adam a few times, but always with conditions. I need to apologize, we need to acknowledge that we overreacted, we need to understand her perspective. Adam's response has been consistent. We're willing to work on rebuilding relationships, but only if there's mutual respect. He's told his mother that her behavior toward me was unacceptable and needs to change if she wants us to be part of family gatherings again. So far, she hasn't been willing to meet those terms. Robert has been more conciliatory. He's called a few times just to check on the kids, and he's expressed hope that the family can find a way forward. I appreciate his efforts, even if Mary isn't on board. Victoria and I continue to rebuild our relationship slowly. She and James have been more mindful about how they talk about their lifestyle around us, and Victoria has made genuine efforts to understand my perspective. She's even started volunteering at a local charity, saying that our conversation made her think about ways to contribute beyond financial success. As for me, I'm learning to set boundaries that protect my mental health and my family's well-being. I'm no longer available for conversations that revolve around comparing our lifestyle to others. I don't engage with comments about our financial choices or career decisions. It's liberating, honestly. For the first time in years, I'm not walking on eggshells around Adam's family. I'm not constantly worried about being judged for our modest house or our practical cars or our careful budgeting. The kids seem happier too. They're not picking up on the subtle tensions that used to permeate family gatherings. They're not hearing indirect messages about their parents not being good enough. My work at the hospital continues to be fulfilling. If anything, this experience has reinforced my conviction that what I do matters. Every shift, I'm reminded that there are things more important than money: health, compassion, human connection, dignity. I've also become more vocal about supporting other healthcare workers who face similar judgments about their career choices. It's amazing how many people in helping professions deal with family members or friends who question their decision to prioritize service over salary. Nina and I have started a support group for healthcare workers dealing with family stress related to their careers. It's been eye-opening to hear how common these experiences are. Teachers, social workers, firefighters, paramedics. So many people who chose careers based on calling rather than compensation face judgment from people who should be their biggest supporters. Looking back on that Christmas dinner, I sometimes wonder if I could have handled things differently. Maybe if I'd spoken up sooner, the confrontation wouldn't have been so explosive. Maybe if I'd tried harder to have private conversations with Mary about how her comments were affecting me, we could have worked things out. But then I remember all the times I bit my tongue, all the times I smiled politely while being insulted, all the times I tried to make myself smaller so that Victoria could shine brighter, all the times I prioritized keeping the peace over protecting my own dignity. I did try to handle things diplomatically for years. Mary wasn't interested in hearing that her behavior was hurtful. She was interested in maintaining a family dynamic where Victoria was the golden daughter-in-law, and I was the cautionary tale about marrying for love instead of money. So no, I don't regret that Christmas dinner explosion. I regret that it took me so long to stand up for myself and my family. The most important lesson I've learned from this experience is that you teach people how to treat you. By accepting Mary's disrespectful behavior for so long, I was inadvertently enabling it. By finally drawing a firm line, I sent a clear message about what I will and won't tolerate. It's a lesson I hope Melinda and Lucas internalize as they grow up. I want them to know their worth isn't determined by their bank account, their job title, or their ability to impress others with material possessions. I want them to understand that they deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, regardless of their circumstances. I also want them to learn that standing up for yourself sometimes means disappointing people you care about. That doing the right thing isn't always easy or comfortable. That sometimes relationships have to get worse before they can get better. As I write this, Victoria is pregnant with her first child. She called to tell me personally, and for the first time in years, the conversation wasn't tainted by competition or comparison. We talked about morning sickness and baby names, and the excitement of becoming a parent. She asked if I thought Mary would change her behavior once she becomes a grandmother. I don't know, I told her honestly. But I hope so. Your baby deserves grandparents who love unconditionally, not grandparents who play favorites based on their parents' bank accounts. Victoria was quiet for a moment. I want my children to know their cousins, she said finally. Melinda and Lucas are amazing kids, and I don't want this family drama to keep them apart. That conversation gave me hope that maybe, eventually, we can find our way back to being a family. Not the same family we were before. That dynamic was too toxic to return to, but maybe a healthier version of ourselves. For now, I'm focusing on what I can control. My own behavior, my own responses, my own boundaries. I'm continuing to work hard at the hospital, to be present for my children, and to support Adam as he navigates his own complicated feelings about his family. I'm also trying to model for Melinda and Lucas what it looks like to value yourself appropriately, to stand up for what's right even when it's difficult, to choose dignity over false peace. This whole experience has taught me that family isn't just about blood relations. It's about mutual respect, support, and love. Some of my closest family bonds are with people like Nina, who has been more supportive than some of my actual relatives. Some of my most meaningful connections are with my colleagues at work, who understand the value of service and compassion. Mary may never acknowledge that she was wrong. She may never apologize for the way she treated me. She may never recognize that her need to elevate Victoria came at the expense of making me feel unwelcome in my own family. But that's okay. I don't need her validation anymore. I know who I am, I know what I contribute to the world, and I know that my worth isn't determined by her opinion of me. The golden daughter-in-law narrative was always a false construct anyway. There shouldn't be competition between family members about who deserves more love or respect based on their circumstances. There should just be love, acceptance, and support for each person's journey. Maybe someday Mary will understand that. Maybe someday she'll realize that having one daughter-in-law who makes a lot of money and another who saves lives isn't a competition. It's a blessing. Both contributions have value. Both women deserve respect. Until then, I'll continue living my life according to my own values. I'll continue working at the hospital because it's meaningful work that makes a difference. I'll continue raising my children to value character over cash. I'll continue supporting Adam as he figures out his relationship with his parents. And I'll continue standing up for myself when necessary, because that Christmas dinner taught me something important. My dignity isn't negotiable, and my worth isn't up for debate. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it resonates with anyone who has ever felt judged for choosing purpose over profit, or love over status, or service over salary. You're not alone, and your choices matter more than anyone else's opinion of them. Remember, you teach people how to treat you. Make sure the lesson you're teaching is one you can live with.